Before Hong Kong became a skyline of glass, there was a single city block where 33,000 people lived in permanent night. No sunlight on the streets, no official law, and according to the people who lived there, no guarantee the dead ever really left. Imagine stepping into an alley so narrow you can touch both walls without stretching. You look up, but there is no sky, only concrete, cables, and laundry stitched together into a ceiling. This was Kowloon Walled City, a vertical labyrinth built on top of itself. No permits, no maps, no government inspections. Some called it the City of Darkness. Others said it was alive, breathing through ventilator shafts, bleeding through leaking pipes. At night, they swore you could hear your own name whispered through the plumbing. Tonight, we're going inside to see how a legal loophole created a concrete organism the law couldn't enter, and how, in the dark, people built lives one floor above heroin kitchens and one wall away from the dead. After the Second World War, Hong Kong was drowning in people. Refugees from mainland China flooded in, desperate for anywhere to sleep. Kowloon Walled City had once been a Qing dynasty fort. On paper, it was a tiny scrap of land that Britain and China never clearly agreed on. In reality, it became something else. A no man's land where neither side wanted to take responsibility. With no one truly in charge, people moved in. They built upward, balconies stacked like bones, rooms added wherever a wall could hold weight. This wasn't architecture, it was spontaneous biology. Concrete mutated like a tumor blooming upward. A room added here, a bridge there, a corridor closed and rerouted. No blueprints, no fire escapes, no central water, no official power grid. To drink, residents drilled shallow wells and pumped groundwater up, floor by floor, through rubber hoses and tin pipes that leaked constantly. Every drop had to fight its way up. Every waste stream slid back down. Electricity obeyed the same lawless design. A few legal cables crossed the rooftop. From them, a spider web of stolen wires crawled through the walls, humming, sparking, and turning whole floors into fire traps. Ventilation didn't exist. Air just lingered, heavy with frying oil, sweat, opium smoke, and something metallic, something like blood. In this sealed ecosystem, privacy died first. You could hear your neighbors breathe, argue, pray. Each floor became its own world, an unlicensed dentist beside a noodle factory, a tiny temple pressed between a gambling den and a brothel. People said you could live your entire life here without ever seeing the sun. Inside Kowloon Walled City, day and night meant nothing. Neon tubes burned 24 hours, painting everything in sickly blue. Rats traveled between floors like regular tenants. The triads were the only law that mattered. 14K, Sun Yi on. They ran heroin kitchens, brothels, illegal casinos. They collected rent, settled disputes, and decided who was allowed to stay. Hong Kong police were terrified of entering. Raids were rare, and when they came in groups, because walking in alone was asking to disappear. And yet, inside this so-called devil's den, something stranger than crime existed. Normal life. Families crammed into rooms where you could touch both walls with your palms. A seamstress ran her machine by candlelight, her daughter doing homework on sacks of rice. Doctors without licenses treated everything from fevers to fractures. One dentist, known only as Dr. Wong, worked out of a room barely wider than his chair. He sterilized his tools over a kettle and pulled so many teeth that he took 1 million from the city's mouths. Hidden behind metal doors, tiny schools taught kids under flickering bulbs. On the rooftop, volunteer teachers gathered children beneath plastic sheets. When rain punched through the ceiling, class paused. When it stopped, they kept going. Down below, steam from noodle shops mixed with incense, a smell residents said you never forgot. For those who lived here, Kowloon wasn't hell. It was the one place that didn't ask for papers or proof of income. The walls that kept the police out also kept the immigration officers away. Those outside called it a cancer. Those inside called it home. Seen from afar, Kowloon Walled City looked like a single machine. One solid block of windows, cables, and rust. Photographers compared it to Blade Runner without the future. Architects called it a miracle of survival. But the people inside didn't talk about miracles. They talked about ghosts. Residents said the walls remembered. Every knock, every argument, every cry came back hours later, warped and distant, like the building was replaying its own memories. The same pipes that carried water, they believed, also carried the dead. At night, some swore they heard their names whispered through them, soft, wet, and close to their ears. Those who answered were never seen again. So they fed the ghosts, bowls of rice, cigarettes, a few coins or a stick of incense at the nearest shrine, hoping the spirit would follow someone else's plumbing. No one really knew how many people died here. There were no official death certificates. There were stories, like the patient who supposedly vanished mid-procedure in Dr. Wong's dentist chair. The seat was still warm, the tools still wet, but the man was gone. And in Kowloon, that was enough to stop asking questions. And yet, just a few stairs above all of this, the roof felt like another universe. Children flew kites between antennas. Lovers met beside water tanks. For a moment, there was sky. But even that sky glowed red with meat shop bulbs from below. A false sunset that never changed, bathing everything in the color of blood. In the walled city, life and death were always just one floor apart, and the wall between them was paper thin. By 1993, the government finally came for the City of Darkness. By 1994, the last walls were gone. On paper, it was simple. Compensation, relocation, demolition. In reality, it felt like erasure. Each family was counted like infantry and given an average payout of 38,000 Hong Kong dollars. Enough to close a case file, not enough to start a new life. Officials offered flats in nearby public housing, clean towers, open courtyards, light in every room. Many residents accepted, some didn't. Old tenants said the silence in those new apartments was louder than anything they'd ever heard in Kowloon. No neon hum, no dripping water, no neighbors arguing through thin walls, just empty air. Before the bulldozers moved in, social workers and university teams rushed inside to document the impossible. They mapped the maze, measured the corridors, and recorded how a city with no architect had managed to function at all. Their data read like science fiction. Light levels that never rose above 5% of daylight. Humidity soaking the air at 90%. Temperatures rarely dropping below 30 degrees Celsius. They called it a habitable impossibility. As demolition crews tore into the middle, they started finding time capsules no one had meant to leave behind. Apartments sealed for decades. Beds still made, calendars frozen on 1978. Family photos blistered and curled from years of trapped heat. Workers told stories. Rooms entombed in concrete. Shrines still standing. Incense burned down to cold ash that looked fresh. One crew swore they heard a radio playing inside a crushed flat. Music with no source, humming behind a wall with no power lines left. Others said the air grew heavy as they worked, like the building itself was refusing to let go. When it was done, the maze became a park. Neat paths traced where alleys once twisted. Stone plaques showed where the old gates had stood. Children rode bicycles where heroin once cooked. Tourists came, took photographs, and left with a story about the crazy vertical slum that used to be here. But locals said, if you walk those paths at night, the air still feels crowded. Today, Kowloon Walled City is more alive in memory than it ever was on a map. Directors recreate it in movies and anime. Game designers build levels inspired by its corridors. Architects study it as chaos perfected, a blueprint for what happens when survival rewrites the rules. Some call it a dream of total freedom. Others call it a warning. This is what freedom without compassion becomes. Most cities die when the last brick falls. Kowloon never did, because some buildings are too crowded with the dead to ever truly empty. Leave a comment with your country and I'll uncover the darkest forgotten place hidden there. And if you've ever walked through Kowloon Walled City Park, tell me honestly, did you feel alone? Or did it feel like someone was still there with you?